This is the ultimate short video guide to owning roosters. This video will cover topics such as, do you really need roosters? And how to properly take care of your first ever rooster, going through breeds and everything else in between. So do you really need to own a rooster? Well, there's 3 criteria that you should be able to meet out of this list of 5 that I'm about to show you. And if you meet at least 3 of them, as I said, then you should probably consider buying a rooster. If you meet 2 of them, maybe you might want to buy a rooster, but if you meet 1 or none of them, then a rooster most likely isn't for you. First of all, do you live in an area where wildlife is pretty predominant? If you do, check yes, and if you don't, check no. The second one, do you have a large flock of chickens, specifically over 15 or 20? If you check yes, do that, and do the same thing if you have no. For the third one, are your chickens prone to dying under easy to survive circumstances? And number 4, are your chickens within a good distance of your house? And finally, number 5, are you down for owning a chicken that might not like you that much? That last one, I bet a lot of you guys clicked no, but if you matched, like 4 out of 5 of them, you'd probably want to consider getting a rooster. And there's a couple situations where you should and shouldn't own a rooster as well. Those just goes over if you really want to own a rooster. That's the mental phase of it. The more physical phase of it is, first of all, check with your town, see if you can own roosters. Out here, over by the New York border in Connecticut, I don't have to ask the town. Our town has like, what, 3,800 people living in it? And everyone's spaced out, so no one's gonna care if they hear a rooster. I hear my neighbor's roosters all day, and I don't complain about it once. I sometimes hear it at 4:30 a.m. and I don't complain about it. Same thing with our rooster. But if I live back where I used to live, when I used to live down in southern Connecticut, we would not be able to keep roosters anywhere near the suburbs. In fact, we'd have to drive like an hour away from where we used to live if we ever wanted to keep a rooster, because most of those suburbs will say no to owning any roosters. Now that we've concluded if you're down for having roosters and if you even want to have them, now let's go over the best breeds for the first rooster. So for your first rooster, you want a rooster that's easy to tame, a pretty docile rooster, and in general, just a rooster that's going to care for the flock. Chicken breeds to avoid are Green Queens and Easter Eggers. I'm kind of just going to loop them all into one because they're pretty much the same thing. The only difference is that Green Queens are a special from a certain hatchery, that being Myers Hatchery, in case you're wondering, and you want to pick some up yourself. But either way though, another breed that you should really be avoiding are Rhode Island Reds. Those guys, you've probably seen those roosters before. If you ever just, you're scrolling and you find a video about a rooster attacking someone, they do that all the time. Rhode Island Reds are notorious for that. 98% of the time, they're gonna want to swing on you as soon as they see you enter the yard. A good breed, however, is going to be a Black Copper Marin or a Buff Orpington or even a Barred Rock Rooster. All 3 of those breeds check off all the criteria for a good rooster, and they're actually quite simple to tame. If you guys would want to see a guide on how to tame your rooster, the only method that actually works, is proven to work, and will never fail, is up there in the top right corner of your screen as of right now. However, those were the breeds that I would recommend. Obviously, you don't have to listen to me. You could buy like a Rhode Island Red as your first rooster, but prepare to have the topics I talk about in that video I link above to not work whatsoever. And now that we've determined if you want to even have a rooster and if you're down for it, and also how to buy your first rooster, now here comes the fun part, which is actually safely introducing a rooster to your chicken flock and what to expect from your first rooster. Now here's the thing, a lot of people, when they get their first batch of chicken, they'll discover they have their first ever rooster unexpectedly. Like we discovered that Waldo was a rooster, which was pretty expected. We ordered him like that. However, Falcon and Snow White were 2 completely different roosters who were obviously not meant to be roosters. Snow White is a hen name, so you could probably expect why we were expecting that chicken to be a hen. And Falcon, we moved him into this flock expecting him to be a hen, but then he started crowing. It's also noteworthy roosters will start crowing sometimes as late as 19 weeks. And sometimes I've noticed that roosters that grow alongside hens will really have a growth spurt. I don't know what that's about, but I bet someone could explain that to me quite simply. That's one of the reasons why people think they don't have any roosters, but they do. But if you specifically order a rooster, they're probably going to get it correct. You see, like 70% of the time, your hatcheries are going to, if you ask for 1 rooster, they're going to give you that 1 rooster. With that 1 rooster right there, he was not supposed to be a rooster, and pretty shortly, if he keeps up what he was just doing with that chicken for no reason whatsoever, and keeps on being aggressive with the chickens, he's going to be in my freezer downstairs. That's going to be the case, and a lot of people do that with their first rooster that they don't expect to have. But here's exactly what to expect with your rooster. Here's a short timeline on what to expect. So for the first week, you're not going to see anything crazy. Same thing with those first 3 weeks. By around week 4 to 6, that's when you start hearing crowing from the ones the hatchery specifically sexed to be roosters. By week 8, you're gonna notice some comb development that's gonna be significantly larger than the hens, because the hens' comb development is significantly slower than the roosters, and they'll end up at a much smaller size. By week 12, you're gonna notice that his spurs are gonna begin growing, which are what he uses to defend his chickens. For some reason, my rooster in there, he's a full-grown rooster. That's about as big as he's gonna get. He doesn't have any spurs that look to be forming. And Falcon, he grew his spurs later, so just know most roosters are going to grow their spurs at 12 weeks old, but they can grow up much later. By around week 18, that's when they become really aggressive. This is when, you know, their drive, if you will, I can't really say what I was about to say, but his drive to do that is going to be significantly higher. Past this point, this is when, you know, his hormones are going wild. And, you know, the rooster is just going to be pretty aggressive at this time frame. Not only is he going to be mating with your chickens pretty frequently, he's going to not really like you too much. But after about 9 to 12 months, he begins calming down and it's easier to tame him. So I'd recommend waiting until about 9 months has passed until you begin taming your rooster. On screen right now is that video I recommended you to watch earlier in this video, showing you how to actually tame your rooster, which is quite simple and very helpful advice, especially if you're going to be raising roosters in the near future. Be sure to click the like and subscribe on your way out.